What up, Buzz? You tapped in? Okay, Goose, you tapped in too? All right, Chicago, y'all tapped in? All right, boys, let's crack 'em. Feel like Mike in the fourth with the ball in my hands and I'm taking a shot. I'm the king in the madhouse on Madison, whether I make it or not. Now the crowd going crazy, they watching the play and I'm watching the clock. Got my shot in the air and the buzzer go off and I'm watching it drop. This team did things, MJ shot City 6 rings. D-Rose too big, too fast, too strong, history. And we good on that, put Jilla on the track and we good on wax. 3, 2, 1, everybody say Bulls on tap, Bulls on tap. Our city pretty and gritty, Benny the bull in the crowd getting hyper and litty. Me, I'm so drippy, it's slippery, nothing offends me. Banners on banners, we winners. We got the stats in the news, go and subscribe. Hang out with Buzzy and Goose, tapping with us, we the truth. Jilla just murdered the booth.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Bulls on Tap. I'm your boy Buzz. I'm joined by my dude Goose. And it's not a post game. It's nothing like that. It's just like a post NBA Finals check-in, an upcoming draft talk, and then the rumor today about Zach LaVine potentially being shopped. Before we get into this one, be sure to go on TapSportsNet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. Following us on Twitter at Bulls on Tap and on Tap Sportsnet. Following Goose at Goose on Tap and me at Buzz on Tap. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to us, 5-star rating and review because that's cool and tough. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, please go to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on Tap Sportsnet YouTube. We're presented by Sports Illustrated Media Group. Oh, mouthful. Goose, what's up, man?
Nothing, man. It's been a little under a month since we've done this, and I forget how hyped our intro song makes me every single time I hear it. Shout out Jude Jilla for doing that for us again. That is, I don't know. It's like a green room hype song for me, the same way that it is an intro. It gets me in the mood.
It does, man. It gets me in the mood to talk basketball because I've been without it for a couple days now, and I'm fucking miserable.
I mean, I kind of figured it was going to be Nuggets in 5 at most.
Yeah, that's what I
but that didn't make it any easier to accept the reality that, I mean, I guess we'll have Summer League here, not too far out. The NBA does a pretty good job of keeping something active, especially with as entertaining as their off seasons are.
Right.
So though we're without basketball, we do still have basketball news, and there is some level of basketball on the horizon for us, and hopefully the Bulls find a way to sneak into this draft class so we have somebody to watch in some.
That's what I'm really looking forward to. Before we get into that part, though, your thoughts on the finals overall. Were you happy with it? Were you mad with it? What did you think of it? I mean, I just think Denver was so good that it was nothing. No team in the East could have touched them, I don't think.
I think this entire playoff run this year was very entertaining basketball. I enjoyed a lot of the series. Felt that they were pretty competitive. The Heat making it as a play-in team is obviously an achievement in itself. Seeing Jimmy Butler kind of disappear in the finals, I guess, was a little disappointing with the somewhat superhuman playoff run that he was putting on. I believe he was averaging the most points through the playoffs for a good part of it. So to see him kind of disappear in the moment, smiling and all, was a little disappointing. But obviously, as a Bulls fan, Jimmy not winning a ring is a little validating in a
little satisfying, huh?
Yeah, it goes both ways because obviously I love Jimmy. I want success for Jimmy, but not having to deal with the Jimmy won a championship on his own with a whole bunch of undrafted players that most could have done is a narrative I'm all right avoiding for now.
Yeah, I think I had an early dunk in the postseason where I had tweeted out, and I know you retweeted it, about, damn you Garpax, like MPJ was on the board, because he was playing very good up until that finals. And the finals, he struggled mightily, did not look, but he remained aggressive, which is really good. And thank God Denver didn't need, well, not thank God, I have no horse in the race, but Denver didn't need him because Jokic and Murray were just out of control.
In that closeout game, MPJ carried them a lot through that first half.
Yeah, he did very well in that game, but through the series, I was saying he was not good enough to help carry them.
Through the playoffs in general, though, I do feel that we saw a couple different dimensions to him. I never would have anticipated saying he's a team guy, that he was capable of being a third, fourth option on a team. Obviously, on top of the back injury and all that stuff leading up to the draft. His ego, his arrogance, his approach was kind of a concern for some teams as well. So to see him kind of fall into place on a team like the Nuggets where he isn't the guy, but can still give you those big moments that you need out of somebody capable of potentially being that guy for a team down the road, was a fun story in itself. The Aaron Gordon story was fantastic.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that was cool.
Bruce Brown, like there's so many great storylines. KCP, catching beers from the fans at the parade today and doing the Stone Cold beer chug. No, I'm very happy for Nuggets fans. Team definitely deserved it, especially after Jokic got snubbed for his regular season MVP. That Finals MVP tastes and feels a little bit better.
I hope people that didn't understand because they didn't watch them, the stat watchers and everything like that, I really hope they watched him in this Finals and were like, okay, he's really good. I told you that I thought Embiid should be the MVP over him because I thought Embiid did more during the regular season on the defensive end. I feel like, Murray and Port, I mean, he's got a very good surrounding cast, and I understand that, you have Maxey over in Philadelphia and you have Harden over in Philadelphia, Tobias Harris. But Embiid was still...
Playing with Harden can also be a hurdle, so that's an accomplishment in itself.
Right. So, but I mean, I just hope people respect the game of Jokic now. That dude is unbelievable.
He makes everything look so effortless and routine. He makes you believe that you could walk on a basketball court and do absolutely everything because he does everything outside of being like an elite rim protector and, pick and roll defender. He makes everything on the offensive end look so simple and so easy and effortless that it's just like, how? It doesn't make sense half the time. The things that he sees on the floor that other people don't. His control of an offense, him and Murray being the first to have, I believe, both having triple doubles.
Yeah, 30-point triple doubles in the Finals, and they did it like 3 minutes apart.
Yeah.
I
mean, and when you watch them play, you can understand why that's possible for them because Murray just gets to dump the ball into Jokic, and Jokic just gets to spray from the post to what was open, and so it makes sense, but at the same time, that stat blew my mind.
Yeah, it was wild. That was wild. So, Finals, not too shocked that we figure that what's going to happen is Denver's going to beat Miami, and that's what happens. Now we walk into the offseason, Goose. We're walking into the offseason here, man, and there's been conflicting reports from some people say that the Bulls are going to try to stand pat and just add minimally. They want to run this back. Other people say that they're going to be very active at the deadline. Casey Johnson, if you listen to his voice, it's like I don't think they're going to do anything, but I'm not shocked if they do anything. I just need to see it. That's where I think Casey's head's at, and that's kind of where my head's at. Like, I don't know what they're going to do because what I think they should do is so obvious, but I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off with all the new rumors of, you have a lot of teams that are trying to move up into this top part of this draft now.
Yeah, and if Zion Williamson is on the table, you really don't have an asset.
You've got nothing. You've got nothing. I don't care if Zach played 77 games this year and Zion played 40. They're taking Zion every time.
Especially if they jump all the way up to 2 with Charlotte. I think LaMelo and Zion would be a killer combo.
Could you imagine?
Could
you imagine that?
I don't think MJ would be selling if he ends up lucking into Zion. I'm pretty sure Zion is a Jordan brand product as well.
Yeah, he is. That would be so wild though.
Obviously Zion's got to play. He's got to keep those legs healthy, which with all this offseason controversy, we're learning why he might be weak in the knees. In the words of the great Mick from the Rocky movies, women will make you weak in your legs, Rock. And maybe that's...
I don't know why fucking his third leg's injured. Figured it out.
No, it wasn't... No, we're not going to go there. We always seem to end up there somehow. But no, I mean, with the offseason controversy, his kind of lack of play in New Orleans, I could see where a new change of scenery would be good. Reports today were that him and David Griffin were meeting to have a conversation. The trainer that he was closest with has been released from the team. So all signs point to Zion making a move somewhere, which I think for the Pelicans is somewhat exciting because Brandon Ingram kind of excelled more than maybe you anticipated.
Well, I mean, Ingram, Valanciunas, I mean, they bring in an explosive guard over there like Scoot, because that's who I'm assuming they're going to go after is Scoot. I think I saw that in the report too. If they were getting rid of,
think the Bulls have a shot now? Obviously, we pretty much just
if
put
no,
that to bed. If Zion's available, you don't have an asset or every asset on your team to kind of make up that kind of trade value.
like I said on the show before, I want this to happen. I don't think it'll happen, but I was hoping we'd be able to do it with Portland. You know, that was because I really want that Shaden Sharp kid. I know they're not going to give him up, but
so do you think there's a deal with Portland that doesn't have the number 3 pick in it that you could acquire Shaden Sharp for LaVine and maybe a couple
and probably Nurkic or some shit like that?
Yep, Sharp.
Yeah,
Nurkic,
I mean,
maybe Cam Reddish in a sign and trade and some future picks from them, or pulling the protection on the pick that you have and another pick down the road kind of thing.
I just figured we just got into this. I didn't even read everybody the state. I already have it pulled up here. So if you don't know what Goose and I are talking about, if you have not been around, there was a report that came out from Jake Fisher today of Yahoo Sports. I'll read it. It says wishful executives will keep their eyes peeled on Portland and Damian Lillard, but it's the Chicago Bulls who have started contacting teams, quietly gauging the trade interest in Zach LaVine. League sources told Yahoo Sports. It remains to be seen just how willing Chicago is to part ways with LaVine, or if it receives a offer for his services. LaVine has 4 seasons remaining on his 5-year deal. So they're holding a steep valuation for LaVine is basically what this report says. Again, the trade you just named off with New Orleans, no one, even if Zion plays 40 games, no one's taking 77 to 80 games of Zach LaVine over 40 games of Zion Williamson. They won't. They just won't. I don't know his fit with Damian Lillard. I don't know what that backcourt looks like.
I think it's comparable to your Dame CJ experiment that you moved
and
on.
That failed already.
Yeah.
So, that's
the tricky thing with Portland here is I feel that they should keep their third, and maybe it depends on who's the board. If the Hornets take Scoot and just take the best available, and it's Brandon Miller, maybe they debate, moving out of it. But for Portland, I look at the roster, and they have almost like every young wing prospect from recent drafts in the lottery on their roster. They've got Cam Reddish, they've got Kevin Knox, they've got Naz Reid, they had Matisse Thybulle. Like outside of
they have Nazir Little too.
Yeah, they've got Naz Little.
Remember him at North Carolina? A lot of people thought he was going to be.
He's on a good contract right now. He is like $6 to $8 million on a 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah.
So I look at the Portland roster and I almost think that, like, as a franchise, you have to go, what more can we give this guy that actually makes us a championship contender? They completely missed the playoffs and the play-in, partially by design, towards the end of the season there. But what pieces do you need to legitimately have a contender with Dame on your roster? Or are you better with the Shaden Sharp, with all these young wing prospects that you can re-sign and kind of see which one works out for you while grabbing a Scoot Henderson or a Brandon Miller?
That's 100% what you're bringing up right now is the route that Portland should go. They shouldn't blow it up and trade the third pick to keep Dame there. Yes, Dame is a star. He is a star player, but he's 31 years old and he's a guard. It's going to start breaking down here eventually. It's within the next 3 years. I'm just saying, if you have to be sure whatever you trade, you get the perfect complementary piece back to him so you win in those years, because you're letting guys go with high upside. And I mean, think about it. Even if Sharp or Simons is a good young player.
Simons is a good young player, and then you have teams like the Rockets that are reportedly trying to shop that fourth. And they're trying to aggressively improve their roster. Damian Lillard maybe gets you the 4th overall pick, some young assets from the Rockets, and then you're picking 3 and 4. You already have, Sharp and a couple of other decent young players to kind of build with and see how this plays out. So it shocks me that Portland is reported to be leaning heavier towards moving that 3 to get Dame help. And
you know why it shocks you? Because it's loyalty that you haven't seen in a franchise since we were kids.
I mean, and for me, I don't know about you, but if Scoot Henderson is on the board at number 3, there's not a combination of players, future picks, Patrick Williams, whoever the hell they want. They could have all 5 positive assets that we have, which is LaVine, Caruso, Pat, DeMar, and Vooch. They could have all of them. Make the money work. Send them their protection back. Get me Scoot Henderson. And obviously we already pretty much put it to bed because if Zion's available, Scoot ain't going to be there. And I don't know if I feel strong enough about Brandon Miller to do an all-in scenario as I would be with Scoot. So it gets conflicting there. But then you think about it, and what legitimately can the Bulls get back for LaVine?
That's $1 million question here.
Is RJ Barrett?
What's he worth? Because at the trade deadline, if you remember,
RJ Barrett wasn't even rumored to be included in that deal.
No, but it was Quentin Grimes. They wouldn't part with Quentin Grimes though. Okay. That was what it was. They wouldn't part with Quentin Grimes. So it was something like a couple first round picks is what. Oh, I just got an ESPN notification.
Zach LaVine has been traded.
Yeah, right. But they wouldn't part with Quentin Grimes, but there was a couple of first round picks in there, I think. Listen, he balled out from the trade deadline All-Star break on. Like he improved on the rough start to his season and all that. So it had to raise. I just don't know what it is. But I was so funny. I went on Twitter today, and there was like a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, like y'all turned on Zach." It's like, no, dude, we didn't fucking. I think Zach LaVine is a fine player. I think Zach LaVine is a decent player. Zach LaVine got a 5-year, $215 million contract because the Bulls were in a weird spot. And I saw somebody, I can't remember who put this on Twitter, but they put on there, Zach LaVine can be the second best player on a championship team if his teammates are Luka, and it was like named like Giannis and Embiid, I think it was, or Jokic. Well, no shit. If you have fucking,
if like, you got a top 5 player, anybody can win a championship.
Yeah, if you got a top 5 player,
you don't even need Zach LaVine if you have a top 5 player.
I mean, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like, he's a good, fine player. What am I more excited about right now? A fucking full-on rebuild, because I don't see this team win.
And if the Bulls hadn't backed themselves so far into this corner to where they really have no legitimate ways to put a proper roster around Zach.
That's what I mean. They're screwed.
Fits him between the Lonzo injury, taking, about a fifth of their cap, 20%. Around that kind of percentage of your cap's allotted to a guy that isn't going to play next year, or you're at least going into the season assuming he isn't going to be able to play next year. You don't have many firsts that you can trade because of the Stepien rule. Despite that, you've already fulfilled your trade to Orlando. You still owe a pick to Sacramento. We obviously have our pick next year. So now is the time, if you're going to do this, to back yourself out of this corner. And rebuild. It's a lot easier to sell the future than it is to sell continuity with this continued roster. Now, there's posts on Twitter. The Bulls, in terms of their big three, played more minutes together all year than just about every big three in the league, and they were a sub-500 team. So you can't blame health. Obviously, the Lonzo aspect of that is health-related. But in terms of the big three, the guys that you heavily invested in, they simply do not work together.
No, they don't. And you're in the perfect spot here because, like, again, what you just brought up, you traded your picks and all these freaking moves that you made. Right now, you have the prime opportunity if, I don't know if it's for sure, but if there's interest in DeMar DeRozan, which you remember at the trade deadline, there was teams saying they were interested in DeMar DeRozan at the trade deadline. He's going to have some, I don't know how similar the interest will be, but it'll still be interest here going into the offseason. Zach raised his interest around the league and his value after the All-Star break when he turned it back on and showed that he could be not only a dynamic scorer, but an efficient one.
Well, and he did I can't say single-handedly because DeMar's daughter had a big hand in the Raptors playing
the Toronto game, right.
But Zach did, on the offensive end, carry that team to victory in a big moment. And obviously we had kind of the opposite effect in the Miami game. But 50-50, Zach did win you a winner-go-home game in the play-in. So I don't think if the Bulls hadn't mismanaged their assets so bad that we're even talking about trading LaVine, because he is a good enough building block for a team to build around. But with the hole that they've put themselves, the place that they put themselves in, they just don't have a route to actually putting the team around him that he needs. Yeah,
that, and I don't think he's the guy to build a team around. But
that's you also don't have better options.
No, right. Like, oh, well, okay, man. Yeah, I don't have any better options, right? I mean, so that's not more of a compliment. It's just like, we got to kind of build around you because you're the best one here. I mean, your biggest competition is fucking Kobe White, or something like that. Come on, man. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, this is where I'm at with it.
But that's what's going to make this so hard to pull off for a deal, because everyone in the league knows the situation that the Bulls are in.
Oh, 100%.
You've got an aging star in DeMar on a 1-year deal. You've got Vucevic, who, depending on the team, might not even need to facilitate a sign and trade to get him from you. So you have very minimal leverage in that kind of deal, unless you're willing to take on a bad contract in this sign and trade. Caruso, as odd as it is, might have close to the most value on this team just because of how good his contract is and the impact he can make to contending teams. So it's very tough to imagine that we're going to win any of these trades. We're going to have to take a loss in terms of face value in almost any deal we make.
Well, see, and that's a lot of it here. And I like what you said, because, again, we were talking about the New York trade, right? We're talking about the New York trade. And multiple first-round picks were on the table in that deal. At least that was what was reported. I don't know if that's true. That was what was reported. You're taking a loss if you're trading Zach LaVine after a huge jump in his game after the All-Star break and showing you what he's done for the last 2 years pretty much consistently. You're taking a huge loss by only accepting one pick back and making a matching salary, even if it is the third pick in the NBA draft, right? I mean, you could look at it. You can make an argument there.
So, I mean, the Hornets do have Gordon Hayward on an expiring contract. I would even add additional picks and Patrick Williams if need be. You get Cap and go get Scoot Henderson. We've already seen that Zach can succeed.
So you're 100% sold on Scoot.
Of the prospects in this draft, obviously Victor isn't even worth mentioning because
he's not
getting.
The Spurs are not trading that pick.
Even for Luka Doncic or Giannis, I don't think that's a move that they make. Victor, rookie contract, is going to be the most valuable player and contract in the league for the next 4 years. So I'm sold on a rebuild probably more than I'm sold on Scoot Henderson being the greatest thing ever. But in terms of athleticism at the point guard spot, outside of Ja Morant, I haven't seen the kind of explosiveness and natural athleticism at that role that you can see in Scoot without even having to do much research. Obviously, his 3-point percentage is a little concerning. A video of him working with Steph Curry showed up on Twitter today. Obviously, that doesn't mean too much, but at least he's trying. I'm more so sold on the future, the idea of the future, and that is the only thing that I think would make me happy this offseason is to land a prospect, even if it's somebody from a recent draft. I don't know if Jalen Green would do it for me from the Rockets, but it's just tough. You want the future, but there's so few names that I could think of that actually fit in a way that would make me happy to be trading Zach LaVine.
I feel like if the Bulls can facilitate a trade to at least get into the top 3, and I don't know, like I said, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I think Scoot's gone at 2. That Zion thing you brought up keeps sticking in my head because that just seems like it's something I can see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that's something that might persuade Jordan not to sell off too much of his shares too.
So I kind of have myself sold on Miller, and not because I think he's better than Scoot Henderson. That's not what it is. I just think I think Scoot Henderson's going to be
more available.
Yeah, I think he's going to be unobtainable is Scoot. So I think Miller's going to be the one that, okay, Portland be like, all right, I'd take Zach or something like that, or Beal or something. Even though I don't think they would do that
spin
either.
Zone, Karl Anthony Towns and Zach LaVine. Joe Cowley's worst nightmare.
My worst nightmare here in Chicago. I'm cool on that. I'm good. Yeah, I'm totally fine on that. But this is how I had it worked in my mind. What if we could trade Zach up into that top 3, somehow get Miller, and then we come back down and we trade DeMar to Dallas? They want to pair somebody next to Luka. I know that Luka's he's very ball dominant, so is DeMar.
Vooch is a lot better fit.
Or Vooch, either one of them. What in a sign and trade deal? Fine, give me.
The deal I put out there earlier was Bertans and 10 for Vucevic in a sign and trade.
Yeah, I would love that. So then what I would do is I would take that and I try to get that 10th pick.
And you'd get some Grady Dick?
No, dude, actually, if Anthony Black was still there, I'd make that trade.
Okay.
I'm trying to look for size on the team, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want the NBA to be. Anthony Black's 6'5" point guard from Arkansas, if you're not familiar with him. He's very good. So I always go to this website. I go to a couple different websites, but I always read bunch of mock drafts. I watch all that shit, and I'm a total college basketball dork. But this one, I'll send you this website actually. I'll just send it to your Twitter message. But it gives you comps next to the players that are coming out, right? So like, for your Scoot Hendersons of this draft, like high upside, prime Westbrook, D Rose, right? So that's what that's saying. That's high upside. For Brandon Miller, it's prime Danny Granger, prime Rudy Gay. Somebody like him, right? And then when you go to Anthony Black, they call him a bouncy Josh Giddey. I like Josh Giddey. I like that kind of point guard that plays a little bit of defense, that can really like orchestrate an offense, and he's very creative with his passing and involving his teammates. So I don't think that's going to happen. That's a total pipe dream, but it's something that I want the Bulls to look at. We have no picks. Try to get as many as you can in this lottery, and then you're going to have a shitty year. If you pull off those trades, you're going to have a bad 2023-24.
And Andre Drummond opts in, you just make him your starter.
Exactly. And then you go into the damn following offseason with a high pick, because you're going to be a
high pick, hopefully some cap space.
And then you don't have a pick for another year again.
You don't owe Zach $40 million. You don't owe Mark $30 million. If you have a whole bunch of rookie contracts, a couple of retained assets like Patrick Williams, Kobe White, in that scenario, there would probably be cap space and room for Io as well. You kind of continue to develop within and see what your homegrown talent can provide. And obviously that comes down to Acme's evaluation. And Jokic is obviously the golden boy for Acme. And that's a once-in-a-lifetime pick, similar to the Jimmy Butler pick at 30th overall. But it's going to come down to their talent evaluation and being able to develop whatever they're able to get out of these potential trades. And it feels like it has to happen, and that scares me because it means it's probably not going to happen.
Well, right. Again, that was all hypothetical bullshit I just brought up. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. That's what I would like to see. I'd like the team to try to take DeMar, man, on a friendly contract, who's coming off a couple great years. He probably has one or two left in him with the way he plays.
Well, and depending on the team that he goes to, he plays out this $28 million a year, and maybe you can convince him to take a mid-level exception on the right team.
Right.
But for the Bulls, that's not going to be an option.
We didn't bring this up yet either. What did you think about that Fred VanVleet shit with DeMar?
I wish I could sell myself on Fred VanVleet being able to save this team at the point guard spot. I don't know that there's really an avenue there. I think the Raptors would have to be willing to take on Lonzo's contract, and you don't really have the kind of draft assets to attach to that. Obviously, similar to our situation with Vooch, in a sign-and trade, they don't have as much leverage in a trade because he's gone regardless. So taking what you can get is obviously better than nothing. But Fred and Zach, as much as I feel Fred is a decent, tenacious defender for the most part, I do feel that size and that limitation is something that you're not going to be able to overcome without a Kawhi Leonard. And Pat simply is not that at this point. So I don't think he fixes it. I think it's maybe a move that's exciting enough for fans to have a little bit of excitement going into the season just because you do have a point guard. And obviously Fred is a Rockford native, close enough to Chicago to get that praise from.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that would be an exciting move, but I don't think it's a move that really changes the situation very much.
Gotcha. So we basically ran through everything here. We stated what we want to see, what we think they'll do, what we hope they do, what they'll probably do. Your bold prediction for next week during the draft, what are they going to do?
My bold prediction is not very bold. It's that they don't get anything done.
Yeah, stay the course.
We go through the draft and we do not get anything.
Yeah, I want to be different in this aspect than you're being right now, but I can't because I totally think you're right. They're not going to do anything. They're going to stand pat here.
I simply don't feel that they're going to get the offers that convince them that it's worth moving on from.
Right, and that's fucking unfortunate, man. I mean, when they threw Zion on the table like that, because Trae Young was already been, Murray's name has popped up, Trae Young's name has popped up. Zach. There's been a lot of guys' names popping up here.
Well, and even
but as soon
OKC
as
has been
Zion's
rumored to
dropped,
have interest, and they've got a bajillion picks.
right?
Although I don't know, they'd probably be more interested in Miller than they would Scoot with Shea over there already.
Oh man, Scoot. You could play Shea and Scoot together. Why couldn't you?
I mean,
They have shooting everywhere else, and Holmgren's coming back.
So, but I feel like, but you already have Giddey, and
That's true.
I feel you are kind of log jamming, and obviously when it's a talent like Scoot, it's potentially worth doing.
Right.
But no, I mean
when your comparison on that website is two. Again, it's just a comparison, just for fun, but is two MVPs at the position. There's a lot of hype behind that. I think they stand pat, dude. I don't think they're going to do anything, but only time will tell, man. You have any parting words before we leave? Because we have to go live next week, even after the draft or the day after it or whatever. We have to. It's a draft.
Yeah, no, I guess it's exactly a week from today, so it's going to be on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I have to work at the bar, so I will be available after 4:00. So we can definitely do a pre-draft show and then cry post-draft if you want.
Yeah, I like to do that. I like crying.
You like
I miss crying with you 3-4 times a week.
You like breaking things when we draft Patrick Williams?
I did. I shattered that fucking picture frame. I did.
You like leaving bars really early when we draft Wendell Carter Jr.?
We had another beer and got the fuck out of there, didn't we? That was stupid. Fuck that.
No, I think we were actually
we stayed till Hutch.
Yeah, we lingered for Hutch even though we knew that was coming.
That's funny. We've been friends longer than Hutch has been in the league.
It's not too hard to do.
That's really true too. That was mean.
It's okay.
I was also mean. I feel bad about it. Well, I got nothing else, man. I'm ready to rock.
No, let's just hope that they do something. But by something, if you're doing one thing, you should probably do all three. And Vooch, DeMar, and Zach. I wouldn't have an issue if it's one of Vooch or DeMar that stays, or even if it's Zach. If you can get good hauls for DeMar and Vooch and you can build around Zach, cool. If that's your best move, fine. But I would be okay with keeping Vooch or DeMar for a rebuild as long as they're willing to be here. Obviously, trade deadline value for either of them could probably be something to look at as well. But no, I feel you got to move at least two out of these three guys to have a successful offseason here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Well, we'll be back next week before the draft possibly, and then definitely after it. Draft is next Thursday, so join us then. We'll be on live. We'll tweet it out and let you guys know. Be sure to go on tapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. You know where to follow us and all that good stuff. We're presented by Sports Illustrated Media Group. See you next week after the NBA draft. And do something